Hey everybody, how are you today? Welcome to the show, My Vegas, the show where the magazine actually comes to life. We've got the best of the best in the magazine and we bring it right to you live here, turning the magazine into the real show. And here we are today, and another amazing show we have. We've got somebody here in the audience that's kind of special, if you ask me, because finding the right photographer to make you look good is so important, and lighting is important, and experience matters in a case like this. And today, I'm proud to say that we've got Mikel Conrad here. Mikel, nice to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Mikel, photography and design. Is that how do you say
Correct.
it?
Mikel's Photography and Design.
Mikel's photography and design. We've got a couple of things to get to know you here, but we're going to talk about veterans today. And your veteran,
Yep.
one of his specialties that he has a passion for is in the world of veterans and our vets that serve the country.
Exactly.
But tell me, before we dive into that, tell me a little bit about the company and for the folks that are just meeting you for the first time.
You know, I grew up out here in Henderson, so I'm an old-time resident for 60 years. Started the company actually 20 years ago. Been doing portrait photography for 30 years. Professionally, full-time, 100%. Not many people doing that nowadays. Grew up, married a girl next door. Got 4 kids. Love it. Love the outdoors. Love my veterans. Love my bikers. Love my cowboys. And I like working with families and executives.
And 30 years of photography.
Yeah.
For those that know photography, what kind of camera are you on?
So I'm going to shock you. I shoot a couple different cameras. My main cameras are Olympus.
Okay.
And then I have a digital medium format camera, which is a phase 1.
Okay.
So it's like a large, maybe in the old days when they had the large film cameras. Same kind of concept.
So then, a perfect customer for you is somebody that's, I think on your business card said executives and doing headshots.
Exactly. A lot of executives, headshots, or just a nice executive portraits. If it's maybe it's for like a CD cover. Maybe it's for the website, for just LinkedIn. Families and all things that families go through with their kids. Would be Eagle Scouts. I do a lot of Eagle Scouts because my boys are Eagle Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout. Okay. So I take pride in that. We have a display of Eagle Scouts set up in the Scout office that we've been doing that for 30 years.
Wow.
So over the years, I've probably photographed a couple thousand Eagle Scouts.
I got kicked out of Boy Scouts.
Well, that's okay. You can come back with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
First class as high as I got. And I think I was 14 or something, and they said, if you don't cut your hair.
No. Nowadays, most of the kids have long hair.
Yeah, mine was down to my belt. And,
you'd be okay nowadays.
Now you'd be okay. Yeah.
Hey, I tell kids all the time. I said, look, it's about a lifestyle. You make Eagle Scout, that's cool. But do you live the mottos of the Eagles? Are you living those kind of lifestyles, and you're helping others, serving others, and putting duty others before you? And they say, yeah. I says, then you're okay.
Wow. So 30 years, though, of doing executive portrait work, and for websites. There's a lot of doctors in town, a lot of lawyers in My Vegas magazine that need new photography.
Yeah.
And it's not something you take one shot. I know this to be true. You take one shot and you're good for 20 years. Things change, and some people lose weight, and some gain weight, and some
lose hair and gain hair.
Lose hair, gain hair every year. I think it's probably something you should look at every year. But you do family shots too.
Yes, I tell executives all the time for the headshots. Executives, 2 years should be a good goal. Get things changed up. Families, you should have a family portraits. Studies have been shown where families come together, and it's like when your kids, they come and they have like kindergarten, and they have a drawing on they scribble something on the paper, and you're like, oh, look what I did in school. You put on the refrigerator. Now they feel like, oh, mom and dad love me. Mom and dad are proud.
Oh, yeah.
So when the same concept, when they see portraits of themselves throughout the house, be it Eagle Scout, girl, a gold award, be it graduation, or just a family portrait, they feel like they belong, and they feel like they're part of a family, and that mom and dad are proud of them. Studies have shown that it's a big influence on those type of things for those kids.
Good stuff. I want to talk about the veterans.
Yeah.
But before we go into all that, let's go ahead and I don't want to wait till the very end. I'll do it at the end as well, but I also want to talk right now about just letting the folks know watching your website if they want to check you out.
Sure. It's Mikel's, and it's spelled differently. It's Mikel's, MIKELS, photography.com.
Okay, Mikel'sPhotography.com. And Mikel, M-I-K-E-L-S.
So Mikel is the name, Mikel, and people say, how'd you get that name? Are you from the East? Mom's on morphine. I don't know. It was the 60s. She wanted something different, and she got something different besides the name. She got me. So, on that. So, so it's Mikel, M-I-K-E-L-S, that's plural, photography.com. So Mikel'sPhotography.com.
Make sure you get that,
Yeah.
okay? All right, let's talk about veterans. It's Veterans
Yeah.
Month. Veterans Day was Monday.
Yep.
We call it Veterans Month. Let's honor and respect them all as we can. Give them the whole month. Why just a day, right?
Exactly. Even the whole year.
You have you showed me some stuff before the show started that was pretty awesome, some pictures and stuff. But tell us a little bit about the project of the veterans. How did you get into that, and what's it all about?
Sure. So I started my own project about 6-7 years ago. My uncle, he served during Korea time, and he was up in Europe during the time.
Okay.
So for his 80th birthday, prior to his 80th, he gave me about 600 slides, and he says, I'd like to have this in a book. And so I got them all copied and put them in a book form. And then as I presented the book for his birthday, he went through and told me all the stories about these slides. At 80, he still had a good memory and still could tell me from all the 600, probably at least 2/3 of where he was, what he was doing. And photography brings back your memory.
Sure.
You see a portrait, you hear music, your memory clicks, and because there's flags in our brain that it says that we were there on that date.
Yeah.
So he started to remember those. I was like, you know what? My Uncle Tom, I loved him. He was my mentor. He was my father figure. He was just a great guy. So I just really treasure him. And he sparked that idea in me that there's other veterans out there that have great stories.
Okay.
It's not a Saving Private Ryan story. It's not a this. They might have been cooks. They might have been whatever.
Sure.
And so I thought, there's got to be others. And so I started looking around, started talking to people, found a few veterans, photographed them. And I says, I just want a snapshot of their story. Just where they served, how long they served,
Okay.
Maybe what their rank was, and just got a little bit of, what they did,
Okay.
just to keep that memory alive. My uncle passed now, but I want to keep his memory alive through the things I remember and through some of the pictures I have.
Okay.
But also these veterans, it's important to keep their memory alive. So I started doing World War II veterans, and I photographed a ton of them.
Okay.
Got some amazing stories. Then I found out, talking to people who are in the veteran world, that we're losing our Korea and Vietnam vets just as fast as our World War II veterans because of Agent Orange.
Right.
And so I said, I've got to get these guys included. So for the last 6 years, I've been photographing these guys, and I've got my own, I've got a display that goes around town. Matter of fact, tomorrow it will be at the Atomic Golf, the golf course, the Atomic Golf Center up there by the Stratosphere. The Veterans Chamber of Commerce has asked me to set it up as part of their display. So we're going to set it up over there. It's portraits of 30 portraits of these veterans and a little bit of snapshot of who they were and what they did for us.
Now, I know you're in business for photography, and there's a business side. Is this a business, the veterans, or is that a passion?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, it's definitely a passion first, and I get that. I want to share this, and I want to create an image that people remember, that they'll remember these stories and where they came from. And yes, some of the veterans do buy things and they do things, and that's great, and I give them great discounts, on that. But it's not I have to go make a drive in my veterans. It's more about how can I keep their memory alive, and those who buy, they buy, and they get a good discount.
Well, good stuff, good stuff. I'm going to go to question number 2.
You missed.
I missed. What type of stories have you heard as you have photographed?
Oh my gosh!
You told me a couple before.
Told you
the
a couple.
show,
So I showed you Dean Whitaker's portrait. He was the in 1920. He was a bombardier in the B-50 in the 52s.
Okay.
So he's a bombardier and a navigator. So I tell people all the time, what were you doing when you're 18 or 19 and 20?
Right.
He's dropping bombs in Germany.
Wow.
So he's got a great story. He talked to me, and it's just a humble guy. I photographed him 5 years ago when he was about 93, 94, and his story is basically, his window got shot out one time, so he had some glass in his eye from that. Then he recovered, got back in the plane, went back out. On his 18th or so trip, his wingtail got shot off. Now the guys are when they're in the cockpit or wherever in the plane, they say to get around, they have to wear their parachutes kind of half on.
Okay.
So he's telling me that our parachutes are half on, they're not strapped because it's easier to move around and get around.
Sure, wow.
And so he says when the wingtail got shot off, he says, you got to jump. And so he's jumping, and he's at 30,000 feet, and so
He's half on.
It's half on. He's trying to struggle to get back on, and he's realizing it's not working. So at about 3,000-4,000 feet, when he's got a pole, the chute, he goes to pull it, and he realizes everything's together. He says, I still don't to this day know how that happened.
Oh, wow.
I says, I think we both know how that happened. And then what's interesting is he's coming down. He's in Germany at this time, flying over Germany, over some POW camps. In fact, so they're real close. And some farmers are shooting, like pigeons. They're shooting these veterans out of the sky and killing them. And so a colonel or some kind of officer from the POW camp that was right there told all the farmers to quit shooting. basically saved his life.
No kidding.
No, I mean, you think that would be, sure, you ought to have a day, but no, it was don't shoot, stop, and they saved his life. And they took him to camp. He did a
Wait,
march.
did the chute open?
Yeah, he shoot open, everything's fine. He said everything was fine, but he still, he came down. But that's what I'm saying. When the shoots were coming up, the farmers were shooting these guys left and right. But this guy, the German soldier from the POW camp, came out and said, "Stop shooting." Saved his life. Took him, of course, to the POW camp, and then they did a march, and then it was Patton. I think they Patton that broke him out back 9 months later.
All those pictures you showed me before the show, those would be wonderful in here. We could do an honor to our vets
You could.
on once a year with a bunch of photos and stuff. Are they on your website the same way?
So yeah, they're on my website right now. If you go to my website,
Do you have a
Michael's,
page just for veterans?
I do. If you go to michaelsphotography.com, there you go to my personal projects. You'll see my veterans on there.
Man,
Yeah,
love
that.
it. Okay, well, and I'm sure you got a lot more stories than that.
Oh my gosh, there's just so many
heard them
stories,
all.
and the one big one real quick, I photographed 3 guys that were all from New York, all Jewish descent, and they're all in their 90s.
Okay.
And we went there to get them set up, and it was so much fun photographing these guys. When they get in there, and the wives had a big old spread. They says, they said, "Mike, I'm Jewish. Come and eat." I said, "No." They don't know. Come and eat. I said, "Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am." So about halfway and a half hour or so, the one wife goes, "Girls, let's go to the other room where the boys talk." I sat there for 3 hours talking to these guys, listening to their stories, and having so much fun. I swear it's got to be a sin for the 60-year-old having so much fun with 3 90-year-olds. It was a blast, So it's an honor to be with these guys and to hear their stories and keep their memory alive.
Yeah, and we were talking about weddings earlier. You've done a million. I've done a million of them. Been to them, and I've always said, and I still say today, that the best stories are going to come from grandma and grandpa over
Yeah.
the corner. These 80, 90-year-olds, they've seen it all.
Yeah, they do.
And you can't fool them. You
No.
think you're fooling grandma and grandpa. You ain't fooling them.
Not those guys.
You're not fooling. They've seen it all, and
Yeah.
they've done it all. And well, I got a bunch of questions here I've been
Yep, go
dying to
ahead.
ask you. So let me go to this next one. How many veterans have you photographed, and do you go to them, or do you have a studio?
So I've probably gotten over 300 or so veterans I've photographed.
Okay.
And that either way, I've got a studio.
All here in Vegas.
All here in Vegas. A couple of them were from. I've got clients that I've got a veteran. My dad's a veteran. He lives in Texas. And when he flies out for the holidays, will you? And I say yes. I will honor him.
Okay, sure.
And so we do that kind of stuff. But yeah, either in studio or on location, like that 102-year-old guy that we talked about. His nickname is No. The third wave at Normandy. I went to his house. We set up a little studio in his house and photographed him.
Wow.
So either in the studio on Water Street or at their place.
So you're still making memories for these guys. They're
Still making
90,
memories.
90-some years old. And
Well,
who's that
Nono's
one?
102, man. It was fun.
Yeah, you had 103 or so. 102?
102. He says, "Oh, I forgot something. Let me run upstairs and go get it." I says, No, take your time. I don't want you to get hurt. Just take your time and bring it back down.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think we're all living longer now.
Yeah.
And so it's how fun it is to meet these guys that have seen the world. I met one guy. He told me, he says, "I've been through. I think it was like in Corona. We were talking. He said, these national disasters, the end of the world." He said, "I've been through 20 end of the world, so it still ain't the end of the world."
They say this is nothing. Let's go walk the trenches out in France or something like that. During the Battle of the Bulge. I've talked to a few guys about that, and it's amazing stories.
Where do you find these veterans, and how do you meet them and get them in front of your camera?
A lot of it, when I first started, I just started asking my clients, "Have you got a veteran?" I started asking. And now I've got people, I'll go to VFWs and talk a little bit. I've got the connections now. So a lot of times, right now, I work with Honor Flight of Southern Nevada. I'm their photographer. It's an organization.
Oh, yes.
We talked about that, where we send all the veterans, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, to Washington, D.C. for free to see the memorials dedicated to them.
Wow.
And it's just a great thing. So I meet a lot of the veterans through there.
Okay.
And then there's other people that know about my project now, and they'll introduce me to other veterans as well.
Oh, yeah, sure, because they're all the brotherhood.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
What about that Washington trip? How often do they go?
Every 2 months, April and October. Every 2 months a year. So we go in April and we go in October.
Oh, twice a year.
Twice a year.
April and October.
Yeah.
Oh, a plane load of them, or how
So
many?
we do 35 veterans, and
35.
each veteran has their own escort
Okay.
that we get, and that way they want for nothing. If they want an ice cream in an ice cream truck, they don't pay for nothing. We take care of them and make sure that
Is that government funded, or?
Oh, no. That's this organization, Honor Flight of Southern Nevada. It's a national organization
With a chapter in
with
Vegas.
a chapter in Vegas, whatnot, and they run it and they raise money. It's a good chunk bill to send 40 veterans and a staff, or 35 veterans and a staff out to D.C. And we go Friday through Sunday. And all day Saturday, we're traveling on D.C. and hitting all the memorials.
Wow.
The World War II, Korea, Vietnam.
I want to go.
Iwo Jima.
I'll be your light boy.
You're not light boy. I'm running everywhere. You can go and escort. You can be one of the escorts for the veterans.
You can?
Oh, you can. So anybody who wants to sign up, they just go to On a Flight Southern
Volunteer.
Nevada. It's volunteer. They have to pay their own way.
Okay.
They pay their own way on that. And so,
But yeah, it's you volunteer to help out.
they help out. And the stories that you hear from these veterans, it's life changing.
Man, I like
Life
that.
changing.
Okay. The next question I have for you is where can people see these images? And are you doing a book or are they somewhere on display?
Well, like I said, we talked about that. They'll be on display tomorrow at the Atomic Golf range up there. It's on my website. We talked about that, michaelsphotography.com, on the personal project page. When I started the project 6 years ago, I wasn't planning on doing a book. I just want to honor these guys and have a traveling display. But I've got so many, I cannot have 324-inch portraits going around the city. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I've got 30 now. And so I'll end up doing a book. I just got to figure that out. But I'll end up doing a book.
Okay.
On these guys.
Yeah, I can see that. That could be a great book.
Yeah, it's not going to be a book with, okay, here's, Captain John with a whole chapter about him.
Right.
It's just going to be more of a photo book, just with a snapshot of who they were and what they did, and maybe some of my notes of what I thought about each one of them.
Yeah, that sounds
so
good.
something simple. I want them, because when you look at the portraits, you see what they went through. You see the sacrifice that they give up, and a lot of these guys, you see their hands, and you see what they did. They built America. They went and did what they were supposed to, came back, wanted for nothing, and just wanted to build America. And they built everything that we have today for us.
Wow. Now I've never been in the service, and I guess you haven't yet either.
I haven't. No, I haven't. My father, my grandfather, everybody served and whatnot.
Same here. Let's talk about your dad for a second. What branch was he in?
He was in the Army. I don't know too much about him. His mom left, when I was real early, but yeah, he was in the Army and whatnot. My grandfather was in the Army. Most everyone, all the relatives I have that were in the Army based. I've got a son-in-law right now in the Army as well.
Is that what inspired you to do this, or what inspired you?
My uncle, who was in the Army, my uncle, it made the inspiration come to me. That all the stories and getting these guys photographed.
Wow. Oh yeah, my dad was in the Air Force.
Yeah.
Wound up here at Nellis Air Force Base. And
Yeah.
That's how our family started here in Vegas, from Nellis Air Force Base, and got some great pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Of when he was. They're all black and white, from the black and white film camera days. But yeah.
I've had a few guys. So I do a lot of copy and restoration as well. I've had a few guys bring in platoon portraits, photos.
Sure.
So if you remember the platoons, and we're talking like I've got two from World War II. They're about 48 inches long, and by about 12 inches high. It's a whole platoon, all these guys, and they've been rolled up, for 50 years or so. So we unroll them, there's cracks. So I fix all those cracks and create these things. It's just cool to see these things, man.
Wow.
I mean, it's history. It's history, and I think that's what's part of it I like. Yep, because I'm trying to preserve the history and what these guys did.
Man, this could be a movie.
I tell you what, there's
a documentary.
There's a lot of these guys that could make movies. Dean Whitaker, I told you earlier, he could be a movie, man. His story is just phenomenal.
Well, I mean, your book, even I can see a camera zooming in on the book and then and bringing the book to life. And when you can tie in some with all the stories behind the pictures.
Yeah.
Man, that could be fascinating.
Yeah.
It could be like a documentary.
If all this stuff was available when I started 6 or 7 years ago.
If the pictures could talk.
I know, right?
Yes. Something like that. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So are they all on display online somewhere?
So yeah, then I'm updating that. They're not all of them. Because 300. So I've got several dozen online. But I'm working on getting a whole new website built up just for them to kind of share their stories. That way you can see what they've been through. So yeah.
Man, fascinating. Okay, and let's go ahead and talk about the business in general now.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this photography professionally?
30 years, 21 on my own, and actually 31 years, I guess. So,
all in Vegas?
All in Vegas. I am considered Henderson's photographer.
Really?
Because I grew up in Henderson.
Okay.
And started the business or started doing portraits 35 years ago.
Okay.
And then professionally, full time, 30 years ago. But I photographed the last 5 or 6 mayors.
Okay.
Most of Henderson City Council.
Okay.
I photographed a lot of the chamber members and the chamber board members out there in Henderson. I photographed families, and now the preschool, some of the preschool kids or some of the high school seniors. Now I'm starting to photograph their kids.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm Henderson's photographer right down on Water Street. I grew up there, so yeah, that's my claim.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So 30 years though. What made you want to even pick up a camera in the first place?
Well, I've always loved photography. I've always loved the look. I've always loved Ansel Adams inspired me. Thought that I can be a a National Geographic photographer. I see that. I love the outdoors. This big scouter. But I realized that to National Geographic, that type of stuff, you're in the field 6, 8, 9 months a year.
Yeah.
Doesn't coincide good with the family life.
Right.
And actually photography wasn't my first choice. It was just like, I'll just do this on the side and have some fun with it and play.
Yeah.
But being a first responder was my goal.
Okay.
But that never panned out the way I wanted to. And so after doing 13 years in security at one of the casinos, a friend of mine says, look, I got a studio and your work is pretty darn good. Come work with me. So I worked with him for 10 years and then one on my own. So that's where I'd be.
Man.
Yeah.
So you said the first 9 years were you working for a different company?
Yeah, out there in Vegas. So a lot of people might know the old timers who've been around Vegas, photography by van. It was a high scale studio, high-end portrait studio.
I think I heard of him back in the day. Yeah.
Back in the day, or Rancho Madanza. So I did all his stuff and ran the studio for 10 years. But when I joined him, he was doing photography for 30 some odd years, so he was getting ready to retire. So I just kind of did after a couple of years, I started running the whole studio.
Now,
so he
I know
retired.
something, and it's not on our topics questions here, but it's we talked about it before we started the show here today, and I don't know if the public knows, but let's talk about it for a second. If you're getting your stuff done, the lighting.
Oh, yeah.
I asked you, I said, how important do you think is the lighting? It was really a test question. I didn't tell you that because I believe it's everything.
It is.
And you answered it correctly, in my opinion, because I've met thousands of photographers with MyVegas magazine, the cover shots we've done, all the photography that goes into this magazine. Yeah. And the lighting is, I think, like 98% of it.
It's huge.
Or 95.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays people can go out and take good photos, good snapshots, good images of a family, executive, headshot, whatever, with no flash. And when I teach photography, either at I taught at UNLV and CSN for a while. When I taught photography, it was like whether you're using a strobe light, you're using constant light, you're using the sunlight, you're using a reflector, or it's a natural photographer. Learn how to control the light and do what you want the light to do. Now, if you're in a room where there's just no lights anywhere, then you have to make your own light. But if you're outside, and you get the natural light, well, then control the light so it has the effects that you want onto there. So yeah, it's all about lighting and making a difference.
I know I think I heard it just the other night where somebody took a picture. You know how a lot of my friends that are females, they want to see it after you take a picture of it, and they might want you to take another one. Okay, so oh wait, take another one.
Yeah.
Well, the other night, one of the gals at some event we were at, she said somebody took a picture and with a camera, she brought it back and she looked at it. She goes, "Oh wow, look at the lighting! The lighting's so good in here."
Yeah.
So I think even the public is starting to know.
They're starting to realize
that lighting is so important and how important it is. But I think 10 to 15 years ago, it wasn't a topic. But now people are starting to realize the lighting matters.
Well, 10, 15 years ago, digital cameras weren't around.
Right.
18 years ago or so. So you had the film cameras, and if you're doing a family portrait executive, lighting was just part of it.
Yeah.
But now with the digital cameras, and I see a lot of photographers, and they're good photographers and whatnot, but they just go out and just put the family or the headshot out there without light. And what happens, especially if you're doing a family portrait out there, and your camera will expose correctly for the family. If you're just using auto or program, it'll expose correctly for the family. But then the background gets overexposed.
Yeah.
Because then the blue sky goes pure white.
Right.
Your green grass or green trees or bushes, they go yellow. So when I go on location even for families or executives, I take my strobe lights. I'll balance the sunlight or the ambient light. I'll balance it with my strobe lights so it looks natural all the way through.
Perfect. Yeah. That's if you don't know, you need to know. If you're going to get any photography done, make sure you ask your photographer about the lighting and what they control the lighting, I guess is the language, right? Control the lighting.
Control lighting, exactly. It's a big point, and I stress that when I was teaching at UNLV, continuing education and CSN is a big
How long
point.
were you teaching?
I taught there for about three years, you know, and then I do some workshops up in Pioche and whatnot, and I've done a few in my studio. We're going to do some more.
Okay.
Workshops.
Wow. Okay. Amazing.
I've got all this knowledge for 30 years. I got to pass it on so it stays.
You gotta leave something here before you go.
There you go.
Other than veterans projects, what other photography do you like to do, or do you specialize in?
Oh, you know, I say all things family and all things corporate.
Okay.
You know, except for weddings. I don't do weddings, and I don't do little babies.
Okay.
You know, it's just you need a room that's like 90 degrees, and I melt. So, but I'm good with kids, you know, 2 and on up, and I'm good with families. In studio or on location, executives of any type. I just like photographing people and making people feel good about themselves.
What about food?
I've done some food products. So, yeah.
Food, I've had some restaurants that are advertising MyVEGAS, and getting those food shots is really hard.
There's a lot of tricks and trades, and I play with that. I've done some things on the low end, but some of those guys that on the high end, it's amazing when you watch them what they can do onto that. So, but yeah, I like photographing people as my main gig.
That's your main thing, yeah.
You know, but like I was telling you earlier, my passion for my personal projects, my veterans, my cowboys, and my bikers.
Okay.
Americana all the way. You know, I love it.
Tell us about the biker shots.
The biker shots. You know, it's fun because they look ragged and real, but they're all good guys.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're all super good guys, and they have bikes. And they look mean and tough, but they're really not. And it's just nice to get to know them. And a lot of times they just want to get back to the community, like I do, and working with the people I do. And so, photographing their bikes. I love a good Indian, or I love a good Harley that just speaks to you.
Are you a Harley guy?
I don't have one, but I keep on trying to tell my wife if we can find one in the budget somewhere. She hasn't. I haven't convinced her yet.
Yeah, I had one time, but it went to someone else eventually. Yeah.
You know, and I do a lot of sports photography. You know, I do a lot of high school sports. I've done some college athletes. Last year we photographed the professional volleyball team, women's volleyball team, the Thrill.
Okay.
So I was privileged to photograph them, their headshots when they first came in.
Okay.
So a lot of media day stuff. You know, we do things like that.
Friday Night Lights. I mean, the high schools all play on Friday night, right?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of live action like that.
Okay.
I used to. I just my weekends got to be
shots where they're in the uniform holding their
so
helmet
and it's more commercialized. It's not the typical take a knee in there. My stuff's off the charts. You know, I have a lot of fun doing it.
Man, I can't wait to check out the website and everything. So, what about landscaping photography? Tell me a little bit about that.
Again, that was my passion getting into photography.
It was, okay.
Ansel Adams, and I love the outdoors.
Sunsets, ocean views.
Yeah, you know, I'm more of a mountain guy.
Mountain,
you know, sunsets and oceans are cool, but I'm more in the mountains. See me in the mountain lake or up in high, you know, the deserts and stuff. And I tell people all the time, it's like my portrait photography. I try to do things different than everybody else because everyone else has got this same look, this same shot. But I don't play well in the sandbox, so I have to be different if I have to separate myself. Okay. Same thing with my landscape. Everyone can go to Moab and get the Moab arch.
Okay.
And if you go there to get that Moab arch and you want that perfect shot when the sun first comes up, right? You better be there at 3 o'clock in the morning because there's like 60 photographers waiting to get that same shot.
Really?
And so I tell people, find something else. Go around the corner. So I mean, Lincoln County, I love Lincoln County. My mother was born up there. Okay. So I've traveled up there and some of the hidden areas, southern Utah, where my wife's family's from. I go up there. And so during my travels, I find unique things that's different and landscape-wise that I think is kind of cool versus the same typical when you go into a gallery and you see the same thing. Go in that gallery, it's the same tree, it's that tree, that gallery. You know, you see this, start to see the same thing. And I get why and everything, but I like to find different things that
it's
make
really,
people think.
I think it's a combination. If you ask me in photography, after what I've all the fellas and gals I've met over the years in doing photography, it's a combination. If you ask me of art, of talent, and skill.
Yeah.
Skill being something you learned, talent being something you're born with.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're born with that, you got that. I got to have that eye. I think anybody, you can give you and me the same camera, and whatever it is, Canon, Nikon.
They're all good cameras
Nikon,
to use. Yeah.
Whatever it is, and you can have all the settings, and there's a good chance that mine's going to be the worst picture, even though we're shooting the same
It's
thing.
the same thing, exactly. You have to understand composition, understand how you can stack. You can do photos or focus stacking. You can do all these wonderful things in the cameras nowadays. And it's just an amazing day in technology for the cameras.
So you can learn photography, but if you need the eye too.
I tell people that you need the eye. You need I guess you have somewhat of a passion. To look at that. And I just see things differently. When I watch movies, half the time I watch them for entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
The other half, I watch them because I love the lighting.
Yeah.
You watch a good Hitchcock movie. The shadows, the lighting, oh my gosh. And my wife will ask, are you watching this? Maybe it's even a newer movie. She will watch, what are you watching for? I says, the lights this time. I'm watching the certain lighting, how it affects. And I was like, okay, maybe can I do that in my studio? Can I do that on location?
Yeah.
And so I try to learn from the movies, and Spielberg, and you get all these great directors, and old-fashioned directors from the old movies and those things.
Oh yeah, lighting was in black and white.
Oh
Lighting
my
was
gosh,
everything.
I love that noir film, that noir lighting, the black and whites, the old mystery detective look. Yeah, it tells you how old I am.
Well, Michael, what a pleasure it is.
Thank
such
you,
a
man.
joy getting to know you about that and all your business and everything. I want you to shoot my next shot for my band and my music.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
We'll talk about that and make that come true.
Yeah.
And if you need photography, you need to go ahead and call this guy, Michael. Give us your phone number again.
So the phone number is 702-564-7166, and that's michelsphotography.com, MIKELS photography.com.
All right. Until the next time, we'll see you out on the streets of Las Vegas. This is Mark, MyVegas Magazine. Michael from Michael's Photography, and we'll see you around the way.
Thank you, bud.
Yay.